It is recording now. Great, here we go. All right, hello everyone. Good morning from down under. Here we are on this strange morning. And I'm Leslie Altman, if you haven't met me before. I'm the e-learning mentor in the Lismore Diocese. And welcome everyone, and a warm welcome to our presenters. So I'm going to get my presentation up and running. Record, I've got it ready. Record is done here. So I just share my screen and we can get going. Share that one. I'm going to be hopping around. All right, we should be able to share if you can see that. Okay, all right, in present mode now. Here we go. All right, welcome to the Screencastify professional learning session this morning. And I am... It's not working. Why isn't it working? What? Oh, it's not going to work. Go to the next one. We're going to start our morning with a prayer as we come together. Heavenly Father, grant our teachers an abundance of your wisdom. Give them grace as they help students who aren't thriving, as they find the courage to say what needs to be said and to select the right tools to enhance teaching and learning, as they build knowledge on how and when to speak with love and find strength for times when they are exhausted. And when teachers feel unseen, remind them that no moment goes unnoticed. They are shaping the future in many ways, every day. Amen. And we are here on Australian soil. We're presenting from here, so I'd like to acknowledge and pay our respects to elders past and present and emerging of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander nations who long before us lived, loved and raised their children on this land. We acknowledge all the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders families in our community and acknowledge their physical and spiritual connections to their land. We come together today to learn, to share and to journey together. So this morning I've called together an amazing group of people that I'm going to introduce in a moment to help us learn a little bit more about how they're using Screencastify in this, these strange times of remote and blended learning. These wonderful people have been creating tutorials for students and their parents, and they've been creating IT support for teachers. Screencastify has been used for differentiation and feedback, to create GIFs and to track student engagement. So I'm going to introduce to you now our panel. Some of them have come on already, but they have been, they're juggling 2 or 3 jobs at the moment. First, I'd like to introduce Vicky Vance. She's from here down under. She's a contemporary learner and teacher, leader of ICT in K to Year 12 in the Bathurst Diocese. Vicky's a passionate rural and regional educator, and she's a close friend, a professional colleague and a partner in crime for all things IT. Would you like to unmute and say hi, Vicky?
Well, Leslie, what an introduction. Thank you. I'm pleased you haven't given away our secrets about all the crimes that we've committed over the years.
No, we needed Screencastify to help us sort them out.
Absolutely, absolutely. Look, thanks very much for being here.
Great, thank you so much, Vicky. I don't know whether Stephanie Howell's here just yet.
I'm here.
Because I know she's working on a podcast with Lance in the UK, in the US, so she's going to pop on soon, but I will introduce her. She's from Ohio. She's an innovative leader and instructional tech coordinator for Pickerington Schools. And I first met Stephanie in May last year at the Sydney Innovator Academy, and we've become firm friends. We've probably been in daily contact ever since. Steph is a leader and founder member of Global GEG, and if she's there, just unmute. I don't think she is because I'm sure she's.
All right, can you guys all hear me?
Yes, we can. Hi, Steph. Thanks.
Hello, everybody.
That's great, Stephanie. Thank you so much for being here. And Stephanie Rothstein, she's from California. She's a TOSA secondary school teacher. She'll explain that when she comes on. She's a Google innovator from the Singapore 2019 Academy. She's a leader and founding member of the Global GEG team, and we have become new old friends. So Stephanie, you want to unmute and say hi?
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. And my role in the US, we like to give things complicated titles. So my role is a TOSA, T-O-S-A, a teacher on special assignment is what it stands for. I help with EdTech integration, but I also am in the classroom. So I'm out of the classroom 3 periods of the day, 60%, and in the classroom the other 2, teaching in a project-based learning pathway and teaching English. But I'm excited to share with you soon.
Oh, good. Thanks, Stephanie. Darren, are you on just yet? Darren's from UK, and I think it's almost midnight there.
Yeah, I'm here.
Thanks.
It's 10:30. It's fine.
Thanks, Darren. Darren's a secondary school teacher, and he speaks 2 languages, English and Spanish. You're going to come in handy for the Virtual Innovator Academy. He's the Suite in short and sweet educational video series supporting G Suite integration, and he's a global GEG leader. So unmute again, Darren, and say hi.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here.
Thanks
I thought
so
I'd go with the I'm a celebrity background as close as I could get it, seeing as Australia.
Right, so Darren, it's pushing midnight last night in England, and for both Stephanies, it's yesterday afternoon. So we can all assure you here down under that tomorrow is going to be really lovely for you.
Oh, good.
All right, before we hear from our guest speaker, Adam, of course, I must introduce Adam. Sorry, Adam's not here, but he has provided us with a video that I'm going to show you in a little while. So Adam is from Hong Kong, and it's very, very early there. He's a primary year program teacher in a Hong Kong international school, and he's also an innovator buddy from Sydney 19. Adam is going to show us in his video how he incorporates Edpuzzle so he can track students' progress. That is a really exciting another level that we can use. So just a few other points before we get underway. What we're doing here is that, the teachers in the Lismore Diocese and the Bathurst Diocese who had enrolled in a course called Technologies to Support Flipped Learning are currently going through their Module 3, which is how to create a Screencastify, and they are undertaking or have completed the Screencastify Master Certificate as part of the requirements for that course. Now we're at a point where we need tips from expert educators who've been using Screencastify to help them with their remote and blended learning and tutoring teachers in that particular time. So just a quick timeline. Schools in Australia, we had the last 2 weeks, especially in New South Wales, we had the last 2 weeks of term wondering what was going to happen. Were we going to close? Were we going to be fully closed? Whatever was going to be happening. And then our digital technologies leader, JJ Purton-Jones, was able to put together a teaching package, a tutorial package that we were able to give teachers 1-hourly webinars on Google Classroom and the rubrics in Google Classroom. And we were able to give them Screencastify tips and tips on Seesaw. So we had 2 weeks in this panic to just settle, get our idea together, what's going to happen when we come back. Then we had 2 weeks holidays, which most teachers didn't go on holidays, but it was a kind of a pupil-free, panic-free zone, and teachers around the diocese were able to go to a Catholic Learning Online summit that was prepared by educators and leaders. Vicky Vance and JJ were on that team, and we all came together and we were still preparing. So the last 4 weeks have been a kind of a mix of remote, blended, face-to-face, because the buildings remained open and our attendances were really low. In comparison, the schools in US and UK closed probably pretty quickly within days of a notice that you're going remote learning on Friday. You right with that? So teachers had to scramble and get that those understandings together, and this is where Screencastify came in as one of the major tools to connect teachers and educators with their students and the parents. In comparison to that, Hong Kong shut down, never opened. Hong Kong haven't opened yet for business after their holidays in January. So Adam is one of our leading lights that we go to and ask, how the heck, what did you do in the first 2 weeks? What did you do in the first month? So what I'm going to do now is in no particular order, but I'll ask Vicky to go first and present how she used Screencastify to be able to connect with her school community and be able to bring them to an understanding of how to use IT. So we're going to get underway now. And if you have any questions, I'm going to stop sharing so you can see what's actually happening there. And what we're going to do now is ask Vicky to present first, because I think she's got something else happening straight after. And if you have any questions for Vicky, start popping it into the chat there, please. So Vicky, please come and join us.
Thanks, Leslie. What a great idea to have this and join so many different people from so many different parts together. It's fantastic. Look, I've been using Screencastify before Screencastify, I was using Screencast-O-Matic. And that probably goes back to about 2014. Way back in the early days, and I felt like an absolute fraud using it. I'm divulging that now. I hated the sound of my voice. I hated what I looked like. I would do 20 or 30 takes for the simplest little thing that I wanted to do at the time. I've gone beyond that. I just don't have time anymore, and I think that's probably one of the biggest tips I wanted to share with people is just be yourself. And as a consequence, I'm actually not presenting slides today. I'm taking you back. I dug into my archives, and can I share the screen, Leslie? Can you give me share rights?
Can you?
Try again. It's saying it's disabled.
Hang on a minute.
Try. No.
Try it again now.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Here we go, desktop 2. So, sorry about that. Bit of a roll there and an abrupt stop. I've dug into my archives, into my ICT professional development site that goes back, let me see, on the home button, to 2013, which feels like an absolute age away in this day and age. But what I wanted to show you was a couple of things. My early Screencastify ideas, which were in resources, how-to video resources. And this is how I used to do it. So I used to do it in Screencastify. I would have to download it because I only ever used the free version, and then I'd have to upload it into YouTube. In those days, in the very beginning, you couldn't actually directly upload to YouTube from Screencast-O-Matic. So these are the sorts of things that I did. Just little short, sharp tips of how to set the vacation responder in Gmail. And I don't update this site anymore. So it's, it's some of it's old, but it gives you an idea of the sorts of things that I was talking to teachers about. We have 9,000 students in our diocese and about 2,500 teachers. Where this really came into its own was when we moved into being a G Suite diocese, and it was the change from Outlook. We were very much Microsoft beforehand, and we went to G Suite, which we called Share Cloud, and I was doing lots and lots of boot camps, but screencasting really came into its own as a legacy tool. And something that people could come back and watch. So these are my very early versions of it. And then I started to collect, as I sent teachers off to conferences, the price for their registration at a conference was they had to create a legacy. And that could be to teach their staff at their school things. It could be to present at another school, or which was far more time efficient, it was for them to start creating screencast. So these are some of the screencasts that staff that I worked with over the years started to put together, and it transcended their school boundaries. So it was a way of them very early on in the days, and you can see, you know, some of this goes back to 2018, 2017, I think even back to 2015, where some of the, 2016, there's Kylie from St. Matt's, and I noticed a St. Matt's person online. So these are the sorts of things that they were doing, little short, sharp tips under 5 minutes to help people learn a new tool, be exposed to a new tool. And then recently, Leslie talked about the school holiday online summit that we created. I did a session, and amongst many of my colleagues, on different tools. And while they were Zoom, they were recorded. They're in essence the same thing as a Screencastify, only they're the live recording. They're about 50 minutes, but they supplement the little short, sharp tips. I'll be very interested to see what the viewing stats are behind these at 50 minutes. These have all been uploaded onto YouTube. And I don't think they'll have the same viewing stats that the short 4 to 5 minute videos are. One of the best uses I've found is in instant recording of faults with IT. So when I can't get online and do a Zoom with people, I actually get them to do a Screencastify of what's happening. I administer a lot of different education portals, the New South Wales Department of Education portal and Catholic Schools New South Wales portal, and I'm constantly getting people saying this is not working or it's not doing this. If I can get them to do a very quick Screencastify and show me, I can see that, I can diagnose where the problem might be, and I can then send that little piece of evidence onto the IT team, either in the diocese or Catholic Schools New South Wales or the Department of Education. So what I've found is that there's a teaching purpose, but there's also a really, really great evidence purpose for using screencasting. And it doesn't matter whether it's Screencastify or Loom or Screencast-O-Matic, they all roughly do the same thing. But I guess the point I wanted to make was it's not just teaching, it's also evidence collecting. And the, I'm trying to remember where I was going with that. I'm going to stop there and say, has anybody got some questions? It's a bit early, the caffeine hasn't actually kicked in yet.
Thanks so much, Vicky. And like the points there were, keep it short, be yourself, and you've made great use of supporting teachers when they've got any IT faults. And a couple of people in the chat have been asking, can they access the summit?
Yeah, absolutely. So those videos that are now on YouTube, on that, I will put the links up, are all there for anybody, anywhere around the world to access. So I'll put that link in there now.
All right, then. Thank you so much. So make sure that you take a copy of this chat when you leave, and I'll get a copy of it and share it with everyone as well. So if you miss a link, you're not out. Okay, then. All right. So next up, Stephanie Rothstein, are you ready to unmute and talk about how you're using Screencastify to connect with people?
Sure. I am happy to, Leslie. I am going to do that right now. Let me just get my...
Thanks, Vicky, so much.
You're welcome, Leslie. I will have to go in about 15 minutes, so I apologise to whoever will be presenting at that time.
Thanks so much.
Okay, so Leslie, am I good to go? You're seeing my slides, I'm assuming,
yes.
Here. Okay, and the slide deck is here for you. If our little pictures, if you're not used to Zoom, if our little pictures are too much, you can minimize that or move it off to the side if you want to see a little bit more. I'm not going to be going through every single thing that's in the slides. This is really more of a thing that you can use later. Similar to the presentation right before me. You can go back through it and watch. I did make a few just for you in here, but I also shared some ways that I've been using Screencastify with my staff and my students. So I have some examples of how I used it that you can watch, and then some ones that I made just for you that are in here. And I won't take you through this slide as we already went over that. So for me, I work with both staff and students on my school campus and my district. So our district is two high schools. It's a smaller district, but then I often find that I'm sharing that out with other schools. We'll go to larger conferences and I'm sharing it with other people who are doing ed tech or other teachers in the area. So one of the main takeaways that I have learned after using Screencastify for a good number of years now is that, at least for students and really honestly for anyone, shorter screencasts tend to be watched more often. So I find that breaking it up into smaller bits of information is going to mean that you can actually deliver the content that you are seeking. And shorter, I think, is relative depending on your audience, right? If you're teaching younger students, it might be just a couple minutes long, but I try to keep things to under 15 to 20 minutes at the most, even when I'm doing things with adults. I will record live sessions if I have a longer session with my students. That I consider something different. That's more like, did you miss the whole class? And I'm just recording what we're doing that day in class. And you want to be able to watch what you missed if you were absent for any reason. I think that's different than a recording where you're trying to deliver specific content that you want them to pay attention to in that particular moment. So I find that doing these shorter pieces, and then I take those short screencasts, and if I have a slide deck that I'm sharing out, I put my screencast on the slide deck itself on that particular slide. I have found that that helps students who are trying to self-pace or watch something in real time, and it guides them through what to do on that particular slide. So that has been one, and I have a little example of how to do that here on this slide. And then the one, if you're interested, what I show in this is if I was showing people how to insert and replace an image and do a couple other things within slides itself. The other reason I absolutely love Screencastify is the simplicity of doing trimming, sharing, saving, and linking. And so this video takes you through some of that. But essentially, when you're in Screencastify, you can very easily trim, so the beginning and the end of your screencast. So once you have done your screencast, it makes it nice and simple to do that. I also love that it auto saves it to your linked, if you have linked your Google Drive to it. So in my district, that's the way that we do it. And then it is linked, it is saved there. I don't have to leave Screencastify to give the link to anyone else. So I'm just going to show you a little bit. I'm going to fast forward this video.
Okay, I want to show you a few of the things that I really love about Screencastify.
To where it gets to that. Okay, so this is me.
So here is a session.
Screencasting for you. And I have embedded it here on the slide, as I have mentioned to you. I'm going to move it along here to the part that I just wanted to show you. But this whole video will be here for you as well. I'm just going to make myself a little smaller so I can see where I want to show you. So if you see this little button that's right here where it says copy shareable link, once you are done making your screencast, I absolutely love how this is all embedded within Screencastify. I never have to leave it. So there's a little piece that says more options. Right now it says fewer because it's actually opened. And then I can click the kind of link that I want to give. Do I want it to be something that is beyond my school domain? You can alter that right here. I don't actually ever have to go into Drive to do it. And my teachers, especially at my school, love this. My students love it too for when they're needing to turn things in. It also allows you to share directly. I upload things often to YouTube. I find it nice and easy to embed. But within my school, we like to keep things unlisted. So it isn't for public view, but if people have the link, they can access it. So those are tools that you are able to adjust right there within. The other piece that I love is recording a session like this one for people who miss it. So I often find that These ones would be longer, but it is the recording of something for those who miss it. You could record it in real time or pre-record if it was intended to be something that is longer for an audience. And one of the things we've started to do in our district, we went shelter in place as of March 16th. And so at that point, we were midway through our spring semester, and the end of our school year is the first week of June. So our teachers went from teaching, we were teaching with our students, then on March 16th, we had a professional development day that was already planned. I went running around to every department on campus, giving them a lesson on how to use the main tools, and one of them was Screencastify. And one of the recommendations that we had was, how do you want to use your live time whenever you are live, whatever that means with your students? How do you want to use it with your department or with your staff? And so we talked about offering some pieces that they can come back and watch at their leisure, because everyone will have different schedules, but then using your live time to be something meaningful, question and answer opportunities, deepening it, repeating it for those that might need a reteach of something. And so it really helped us to think about, how are we going to do what Leslie talked about in the beginning, which is flipping our lesson. So this video is just an example of how I used it with my own staff. You're more than welcome to watch that later. And then this one I thought was fun to show you, one application that we recently did. This was in a meeting. I'll play it because I have the sound turned off for it. So right now, I'm actually preparing, just after this session, we're going to be leading a welcome night for the students that are coming into our school next year, into my particular pathway. And these are some of the students that are going to be helping me do that welcome. And we were practicing something fun on Zoom. If you can see us here, we were practicing how can we pass something from one person to another in the Zoom screen, and their screen is different than mine. So I was having to guide them through it, and this is an activity that these students are going to be leading with other students in breakout rooms tonight. And the only way that I could capture all of this is if I screencast it, because I can record it in Zoom, but sometimes if you have a speaker, that speaker becomes what is featured. And so I wanted to be able to screencast and show them the whole screen, and then show others what they would be seeing. So I screencasted my Zoom. So it just helps us have the ability to do this. Some people don't have the ability. It depends on where you are in your district. Some of our students don't have the ability to record the Zoom meeting or record and meet. So screencasting gives them the ability then to record everything that's going on, and then share their screen. But I just thought I would show you a fun way. You can record everyone and not just the speaker that's presenting. And then let me see, I think there might be one more slide. I think it's just a thank you, but I am here after if there are any other questions. But I really have found Screencastify has changed the way that our own staff is able to interact both with students and with staff. And I find it to be something that is quick, simple, enough that everyone can do it, even my own students. So when I ask them to turn things in, I'm modeling the practice in the way that I do things in the classroom. And then when I ask them to turn things in, I agree. If they ever have an issue with something, I just say screencast it so I can see what the issue is. But it has been so worthy, and I know that you can take it to next levels, but the beginning stages are very worthwhile, and I've learned so much from them as well.
Thanks so much, Stephanie. That was great. And it really just showed people how easy and simple, and how important it is to keep the specific, the instructional part short, and be able to break it down if it is a longer instruction. And I love the way that Screencastify just links straight to the drive. We know where it is. In fact, it's so easy that people are saying, but where is it? Because they don't realise that it's all done for them behind the scenes. And I love that pass the pencil activity. The kids must have had a ball doing that.
Oh, that was so fun. They can't wait. They're going to do it live with other students tonight, and they're actually screencasting their screens to make it, because then the reason we're doing that is because the processing time for Screencastify we found is much faster than other kinds of recordings. And then they're embedding that screencast from their drive into a slide that we're then going to show parents at the end of this 20-minute time that little breakout rooms have happened. So when things need to happen in a quick time, I'm always using Screencastify. I find the processing time is much faster than other modes.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Are there any other questions? I'm just looking back through here. I can't see anything just there. All right, we'll get to some of the certificates later on. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, everyone. That's fine. Okay then, thanks Stephanie so much. Wow, I'm just learning so much even over these last 2 sessions, so I can't wait to see what Stephanie Howell and Darren bring to the learning today. So Stephanie Howell, are you there from Ohio?
I am ready.
Hey, yes, hello.
Hello, down under.
Down under, welcome aboard.
These are my people. All right, I'm going to share my screen. Let me know if you can see it, Leslie. You good?
Yes, we can see it.
Perfect. Okay. So I'm going to be talking about Screencastify 2, only this time talking about how to provide feedback with it. So that's how we have used it with remote learning, and we've been in remote learning since March 16th. And I am Stephanie Howell, so I am from Ohio. I am an instructional technology coordinator, and like Leslie said, I went to the Sydney Academy with her and got to become really good friends with her along with some other people on this call. So again, I'm going to talk about feedback, and one thing that we've been talking about is giving good feedback. And so with my teachers is how do we provide really good feedback when we're not in front of the kid? And Screencastify has really helped us meet this goal. And the 5 things that we try to focus on with feedback is just having teachers provide as much detail as possible in the feedback, along with keeping it short, because Stephanie is correct. And she talked about keeping a video short will get most views. So trying to chunk videos if we need to give longer feedback to students, but providing as much detail as we can. As soon as teachers can give feedback, the better. So as soon as a kid turns it in, if you can get it back to them really quick, that would be awesome. One of my teachers, she leaves a really good comment that's from Alice Keeler, and it talks about, I will not grade this until you review the feedback. And so then the kids have to go back, look at their feedback, and then turn it in again. Some of my other teachers put it as an assignment on Wednesday, look over the feedback I gave you, because feedback is so important for learning that the kids really do need to think about their feedback that the teacher's giving them. And then we try to remind the teachers, make sure the learners know what the learning goal is. So if you're giving feedback, relate how they are going to achieve that goal. If you do this, you're going to achieve that learning goal because you have mastered that step in the process. It really just helps focus students on why they're doing it in the first place, which can really help kids when they're learning by having that goal in mind, and they're not just like, oh, I'm just learning this just because I have to. And then always make sure you give feedback correctly, which can be difficult if you don't know your students. So that's where the relationship comes in. Making sure you have a strong relationship with your kids can really help provide good feedback. This kid might be able to handle a joke in their feedback where another kid might take it really personally. So you have to be really careful about that. And then involve the learner in the process. So that's where the teachers say, I'm not going to grade this until you look over your feedback, and then I will. And then so that's kind of why it's important, but it's also important to give video or audio feedback, because it can really help the student improve and focus on what they need to do. And there is a ton of research out there that just shows using text comments for feedback is okay, but if you use media such as like video or audio, it really impacts the students. So we have to think about, how can I give audio feedback or video feedback to help the students see that more detailed and personal rather than just that text feedback. And then the students will just be more motivated. Research showed that students are more motivated if the research or if the feedback is done by audio or video. So that's always a thing. And then they have higher engagement levels when it's by video or audio, because I think it's more personal to them. Well, this was supposed to be a GIF, but since it's not, I was just doing a screencast video here, and it was just going over how to give feedback. And again, my teachers use Screencastify because it's this extension right here. All they have to do is click. They click record. They click the screen, which they got really good at with Google Meet because you have to click that screen to present your screen, so I can help you. And then once they have it going, it counts down for them. We talk about using these tools over here and giving really good feedback with Spotlight. So really zoom into the kids, see what you're looking at when you're grading their work. Also using like the drawing tool, actually circle where they made a mistake or what they need to improve on. A lot of some teachers have like a list of feedback. So like orange means you need to add a capital letter. Pink means you need to reword the sentence. My teachers might use those different colors and just put a line, and then the kids know, okay, yellow needs to do this, and I need to go correct that. So it's really nice to have all these different tools on there for them to use. They also have different mouse that you can use. Another feedback trick that my teachers love is bit emojis. And so you can get the attention here, and then you can use your own stickers, and they just created where you can.
So Stephanie's breaking up there, but she'll come back on in a minute. But you know, you can see how important that the you know, the video and the audio is to bring on higher engagement from students. And Stephanie's going to share that slide show with us. And but unfortunately, she's having some problems with her audio. She'll die.
Am I back?
Yep, you're back.
How much did you miss? Did you miss a lot?
What we got up to the point where how important, no, we didn't really, because you're going to share that with us. But, you know, the really big points that you touched on were the fact that text is great to give feedback, but to really bring about a higher engagement is, you know, to use the video and the audio. And with Screencastify, you've got so many different tools to be able to focus students' attention on a particular point as you're giving that feedback. Now, you only broke up in the last, you know, couple of sentences there, so that's,
okay.
That's fine.
Yeah, so I was just talking about, like, I'm obsessed with bit emojis right now, and the kids love seeing these. So my teachers will use the extension. You can also, I can put this in the chat, but there's friend emojis. So if you co-teach with a teacher to help you with feedback, the kids might enjoy seeing these. So Darren's going to be on the call later, and I could put me and Darren on here. And it's just like a digital sticker. And again, the kids just love it. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. And look, I was working yesterday when you were all trying to do this friend emoji, and I'm thinking, oh, look, I really want to get in and do it, but I was working, you know, my hours yesterday. So yeah, tonight I'm going to try and work out that friend emoji spreadsheet. It looks a nightmare at the moment, so I'm going to need your help, I think. So are there any questions there from, yeah, oh, yeah, you look really good together, Darren. So Stephanie's going to share whatever she's got there, and I mean her website. Can you put a link to your website that your Google Innovator was published on, project was published on, but it's full of Screencastify to support teachers. So thanks so much, Stephanie, for doing that. And is Darren around there? It's nearly midnight now for Darren.
No, I'm here.
Darren,
still awake.
Darren's gone out into the forest. Welcome,
Too
Darren.
Right. Hi, how are we doing? All right.
Thanks,
Right.
Darren, you're on.
Brilliant. I'm just going to share my screen, so just bear with me a second. And we'll go with that one there. And so I just thought I'd share a few bits and pieces with you, really. I've been using Screencastify now for about 3 years. I did the Screencastify Master, as you guys have done, and then the Screencastify Genius, and was surprised actually how many extra ideas I got out of that, and it really kind of transformed things for me. So I started using it actually because I used Screencastify to make my trainer application video for my Google Certified Trainer. And I watched that back a couple of days ago, and yeah, it's horrible. It's horrifying because At that point, I wasn't very confident with video. I didn't really understand video editing. A lot's changed since then, but at that point, I was very much a one-take pony. In that I did it in one take, and if it didn't work, I'd do it again, and I would never pause, stop, rewind, edit, or anything like that. It was literally, you've just got to get it right, and put myself on so much pressure. And looking back at the video, it was horrible. But I started off using it really from a teaching and learning point of view with my students. As a language teacher, one of the things that they found really difficult to cope with was knowing how good they sounded, because they were speaking in Spanish, but they didn't really have a good grasp. Because it's like anything, you know, as you said at the beginning, I think it was you, Leslie, said, you know, when you first go on, or it might be Vicky actually, when you first go on screen and you listen to yourself, you know, it's a very weird situation, but actually that's what you sound like to everyone else. It's only us that it sounds different to. So I found that was a really good way to get students over the barrier. So we did practice speaking exams and things like that using Screencastify just in the background so that they could then have access to it, because of course it's saved immediately to their Google Drive. So there was no worry about compatibility of different devices and things like that. And I was able to rename it while it was saving with their name really easily, share it with the co-teacher so they could see it as well. And then we were able to give feedback on that really, really easily. So that's where it started from. Then I started kind of seeing Jake Miller's work on Twitter, and he was posting a lot of GIFs, and I found those really, really useful because they were short, sharp, there's no audio, and that suited me because I didn't like the way I sounded. So I kind of thought to myself, do you know what, GIFs, I can do those. I can make little 30, 40-second GIFs that demonstrate how to do things. I can share them with students, I can share them with staff, and that's what I started doing. And looking back on some of those, they were awful as well. But, you know, it's a learning curve, so you gradually get better and better at it. But then I kind of moved on to trying to really bring the rest of the staff along line with it, and getting Screencastify being used for onboarding of staff. So we use it to create all of our induction day materials for things like the health and safety, for, you know, the behaviour code, for safeguarding briefings and all these kind of things, because not everybody can always make it at the same time. So that asynchronous delivery of PD was something that I was really conscious that we needed to address, because we had a lot of staff, ironically, in my school at the time, we always ran PD on a Thursday afternoon. And then when I was involved in curriculum, well, I was in charge of curriculum at the school for a period of time, I found out just from doing some analysis that the day when the least members of staff were in school because of part-time hours was a Thursday. So actually we were shooting ourselves in the foot because all of these people couldn't share in the PD. So I set about making Screencastify videos and tutorials as well for new processes that came in. And I'm just going to share with you some of the things we did. So the first thing we did, this is one of my school's websites, because as Leslie said, I work at 2. So this is just our school website. And down the bottom, we've got a staff area that you have to be a member of staff to log into. And this is our staff only area. But it's got an update on it for distance learning at the moment, obviously. But here in the useful links tab, what we've got is video tutorials folder. And in here, we've got 3 subfolders that anybody can look at and anybody can add to, because it's all through Google Drive. And there's G Suite tutorials in there. So how to find files in your drive for newbies. There's a couple of PDF documents as well and things. Progresso is our MIS system. So there's lots of videos here for showing people how to get reports out of our MIS. So if they want a class list, if they want to know what SEN needs people have got, rather than just furiously clicking buttons, they can go and watch these. They're really, really short, sort of 2-minute videos that they can then find out how to watch, how to do that. And then when we have bigger events, we've used it as well to make staff tutorials that go out across the whole thing. Then off the back of that, when we had a few school events, every year we have an activities week where the whole timetable collapses, normally in June. It's not going to happen this year because the timetable's collapsed anyway. But it's normally in June, and in the past it's been a logistical nightmare. So one of the things I've done for the last 2 years is collated all of the information for that week and put it all together in a Google site. And everything that people needed to be able to do, we've made Screencastify videos demonstrating how to do those things. So even if it's just as simple as how to add something to a Google Classroom, or how particularly to filter something so that it doesn't affect everybody else's view and all these kind of things, we've put all of that in one place with those kind of tutorials on what to do, and where we've set a task that's for the whole school, because they tend to work in year groups for it. We've given an instructional video using Screencastify on how to do it. So that's been really useful as well. And then with that, that moved into kind of the more long-term PD. So we started creating our own internal courses using Screencastify, and then Google Forms, quizzes to be able to then register staff for PD. And we trialed it with a few students actually, so that's something we're working on at the moment. But essentially building up this asynchronous library of things we could do, but using all the different aspects of it. And one of the things I love about Screencastify, as it's processing, you can just rename it however you want. So while it's uploading and sharing to your drive, you can still rename it really, really easily. You can, as Leslie said, and other people have said, snip it really easily. If you open it in the editor package, you've also got the option to overlay text and things like that over your video, which is great. But also in the last sort of couple of weeks, we've had this added option of not just being able to share to Google Classroom and publish to YouTube, but you can see I've got Wakelet available there. And if you come down here to add more share options now, you can also enable things like Edpuzzle and Remind so that you can share directly to them. So I can make my own screencast and then share it to Edpuzzle. And I'm not going to say anymore because I think that's probably what Adam's video is about. So I'm going to stop there. And if it's not, then we can always come back to it. But it's given me the opportunity, particularly with distance learning and flipped learning that I was trying to introduce to my students anyway, the chance to show them what I want them to do, demonstrate what I want them to do, but also, as Stephanie said earlier, then give them the feedback. I tend to try wherever I can to pop in before they submit to have a look and try and give them a bit of visual feedback rather than wait until they've handed it in. I kind of think the sooner I get that feedback in there, the better. And it's less emails for me to deal with. As you can see, I don't like a lot of emails in my inbox. So from my perspective, it's been an absolute game changer. I now use WeVideo because I came across that and I found it really, really useful. But that doesn't mean I've stopped using Screencastify. And actually, sometimes if I want to make a tutorial video about WeVideo, I use Screencastify to record the tutorial, vice versa, because it's just easier with a number of windows. But as Stephanie R said, so simple, so basic. You know, everybody understands what a pair of scissors does. So it's really nice and straightforward. And it just pops up in your window. It automatically processes, and it's really straightforward, and everybody can work with it. And I've always found the quality to be really, really good as well, and really clear. So that's kind of some of the ways we've used it, and the students that I've used Screencastify Submit with so far, which is in beta, have loved it. And the brilliant bit about that is, apart from the fact it shares with Google Classroom, is that they don't need the extension to be able to use it. So absolutely superb. And as ladies have already said, changed the way I went about not teaching students, but also staff as well. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Darren, so much. I mean, you can see how important it is to build up a library for teachers to learn how to use IT when you are in a remote situation, or even just as a reference, but to have a library for students as well, to be able to tap back in and say, how do I pronounce that? How do I go through that maths formula? How do I, what's the genre for a report? And I can refer to that straight away. They could go to Google, but it might be a different curriculum. But if they go to the school library of screencasts that have been created by teachers, they can hear their teacher's voice, they can see their teacher, and they are reminded instantly of the steps that they were given probably last Tuesday. So that's excellent. I mean, that's really bringing in that, that self-regulation that we're trying to encourage students to get through. I mean, we're trying to learn how to do self-regulated teaching as well. I mean, it's been a difficult time. So thanks very much, Darren. And if there are any questions there, and thanks, Darren, he's put a link in there. And yes, okay then. Yep. All right. Then we'll come back to Screencastify Submit in a moment. But I just want you to hear Adam's. I'm going to screen share my screen now because I need to go and find Adam's video now. So I'm just going to pop in there. Now, Adam, it wasn't able to join us. I'll just get rid of some of this so I can see what I'm supposed to be doing. Where is he? Here he is here. So you should be able to see my screen now, and turn your mics up, but I will bring Adam's video in for you so you can hear it later on. So I'm just going to bring that to a bigger screen and welcome Adam. I'm going to send him this recording. So he's very sorry that he missed this, but Adam is such a valuable member to this panel to be able to show you another way that he uses Screencastify.
Hello everybody, I'm Leslie. Thank you for having me. I'm really sorry I can't be there with you in person, but it's very early where I am in Hong Kong, so I pre-recorded this, but I hope it's useful. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Adam Hill, and I'm a Year 4 teacher in Hong Kong, and we've been closed for a long time. The last time I saw my students was January 22nd. So we've been out of school for a long time. I've learned a lot along the way, and I think Screencastify has been a really core tool during that time. But not just Screencastify, I think it lends itself really nicely with a partnership with Edpuzzle. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Edpuzzle because for me they kind of go hand in hand, and they've been really useful throughout this time. Now I'm really happy to see that Screencastify is now working with Edpuzzle in partnership. So now there's actually a shortcut here to add your Screencastify video directly to Edpuzzle. But if you can't see that, you can just click on Add More, and you should find it on here. So you can select it to make sure it always appears on there. And by the way, you don't have to use that shortcut. There is always a way to upload to Edpuzzle. You can upload it from your computer or from Google Drive, or if it's on YouTube, you can add from there, different places. But it's good to have this shortcut here. So let me show you what it looks like when you add it to Edpuzzle. Now, Edpuzzle has always been useful for creating engaging videos and adding voiceover and adding questions throughout, but it's especially useful during this time to make sure students have actually watched the video and you can see how much they've watched. And we found that really useful because we just had a feeling early on that students were not watching the videos. We typically post a video and then an activity to do, and we just felt that students were going straight to that activity. But the videos are important because that's when we're actually teaching something new. So we wanted to make them more accountable, so we used Edpuzzle. Because I'll show you later what that looks like, but you can really track who's watched it, who hasn't, how much they watched, and you can see the responses to the questions as well. But anyway, this is what it looks like when you open it up, when you put your video in, and you can see I can add questions, you can add voiceover. This is useful if you found the video on YouTube or somewhere else, another video type, because then you can add your own voice and you can add your own personalization, and the students really appreciate that instead of just finding videos from the internet. But I'm going to show you the questions option. Let's say at this point in the video, I want to add a question. You can just add a note. Sometimes I use that just for elaboration or just to check they really understand. But I'm going to leave multiple choice question, just an example. And then choice A is the correct example. This is the wrong answer. This is also a wrong answer. Save. Then when students are watching the video, it will stop the video and they have to select the answer to the question. Or if you're using a note, they have to click to say they've read the note, and only then will it continue. Okay, so you can put questions all the way throughout, you can put notes all the way throughout, you can cut it to kind of trim both ends. But Edpuzzle, I think, is most useful during this time so that you can track everybody's engagement. So just go to the gradebook. I've imported my students from Google Classroom, so it works really nicely with Google Classroom. So let's just click on this one, for example. Sorry, I'm just covering up the names here, but you can tell these two students watched 70% of it. And that's really useful to see who's giving up halfway through, who's kind of starting it but haven't bothered watching all of it. And that's really important when you're teaching. There's actually useful information in that final 30%. So I actually want them to watch all of it. And I can tell all of these have watched all of it 100%, and then I can see these students have not watched it yet. So to see how much they watched is really, really useful. Let me just go back to the grade book. I just want to choose a different assignment where I've actually put multiple choice questions on there. Just click this one, for example. Okay, so I have 2 questions to grade here. These are kind of open-ended questions.
Sorry, people are saying that they've lost sound there. I will put Adam's video into the slide share. So I'm really sorry about that. But you did get an idea. I'm going to stop sharing now. But you did get an idea that how important it is to be able to bring Edpuzzle together into a Screencastify situation, and you can add extra layers of apps. You can do a bit of app smashing. I noticed that Darren was using Wakelet, so he can save his straight into a Wakelet, and also the Edpuzzle was there as well. So Adam, we're very, very disappointed that you missed the last few minutes, but I will share that video with you. And he was very apologetic that he wasn't able to come, but you just can't fit all of the things in the number of hours that we are given. So there were quite a few comments there about Edpuzzle using to dub a video in another language, because you mentioned that as well, Darren. So I mean, I'm just conscious of the fact that the time is coming to an end for people, and people will start drifting away and going to their classrooms. But if you're welcome to stay on for the next few minutes and listen to any of the panel who are here to answer any questions. So because there's not too many of us, if you wanted to unmute your mic and ask one of the panelists directly, please do. So while people are thinking of their questions there, Darren, can you explain how valuable it is, Screencastify is, with 2 languages?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, you know, it's given me the opportunity to get students recording, not just when I'm with them, but recording themselves as well. And then they've had the opportunity to share those videos with each other and to peer assess each other as well through Google Classroom or directly, without being in the same room as each other. So, you know, as I say to the students, when we're learning a second language, particularly in the UK, they would have 4 hours a week of exposure to that, 4 hours a fortnight of exposure to that language with the teacher in the room. So they're not going to get a lot of one-to-one interaction from me in 4 hours in total with 30 kids in the class across the 2 weeks. But with the add-on capabilities of Screencastify, they can go away, they can record the video. They don't have to be, you know, living in the same road each other. They don't even have to be in the same town or the same country as each other, and they can give feedback and respond, and they can just keep them going backwards and forwards and flowing. And we found that they've really engaged well with that, because talking to a camera doesn't feel like they're in front of everyone for some reason. Some of them get a little bit self-conscious about talking in front of other people, but talking to a camera seems a little bit easier sometimes. And of course, they don't have to have the camera on themselves. As long as they can be heard on the video, then that's absolutely fine, even for those that are really shy about it.
Thanks, Darren. Thank you.
And one other thing as well, one of the things I've done with the younger students, which they really enjoy, is I've used Screencastify to basically just get the students to play a YouTube video. So embed a YouTube video into Google Slides, auto-play that with the sound muted, and then to record their own voiceovers for that video. And some of them have been sensible situations, and some of them have been like crazy, like we used to have a show in the UK. I don't know if you've got it elsewhere, but basically, you know, voiceovers over animal clips and things like that. So you got like Jeff the Tiger and Alan and this that, and the other, and just having a bit of fun with it and coming up with their own voiceovers, but playing around with accents a little bit, because that's a lot of the barrier, I think. That they worry that they sound silly, and if I go in and tell them, actually, I want you to sound silly, it's kind of like it makes it all right. And they have a bit of fun with it as well. It's creative at the same time, so, and easy.
Absolutely. Easy is what we want. Absolutely. So in the last few moments, Stephanie, have you got anything else there? With Stephanie, yeah, both Stephanies are on. Have you got anything else to add there before we stop the recording?
I would say that for both students and staff and I would say really everyone, that I believe that you learn the most by doing. And I know that that's backed up by research, but I continue to find it, which is why I teach in a project-based learning pathway. So especially when we're remote and then people are trying to look at, well, what's the best pedagogy? How do we actually connect with our students? How do we do things that are meaningful? How do we do stuff in a remote environment? One of the pieces that I absolutely love about using Screencastify is it's an opportunity for a student to share their voice. It's an opportunity for a teacher to share their voice. And you have all of it in one place. And so I really can understand what is going on for a student. They can do a creative project, just as Darren was saying. They can record, they can do voiceovers, but they're not needing all of the technology that goes along with a more robust video editing software. Instead, they can do it all in one spot, and they can learn some of the tools and techniques. And it's really about helping them explore options and the content and to play, but they're able to do it in a way that I think is a step up from some of the other options. I think, right, like Flipgrid is a great one, but this is kind of a step up from that. It has screencasting ability within it, but this I would say is used on a more professional level. The video that will come out, the feed will be at a higher rate, I would say, than that. And I love using Flipgrid, but I would say this is like the next one, right? And I use it in my own professional setting. I wouldn't necessarily use Flipgrid professionally for what I'm sharing out sometimes because of video quality. But I've found that Screencastify has allowed my students to use it, play with it, edit it, download it in a way that is really usable in other forms as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with Stephanie. And just also be you. I don't edit a whole lot of my videos. I just send them as they are because I just tell teachers I don't have time to edit right now, especially with COVID. So we just send them out with errors in them and they get to see the real me, which I think they appreciate.
Oh, one last thing and then I promise I'll stop. But I have a few teachers, and maybe some of you are like this as well, but they like feeling that personal connection. So when Steph was talking about giving feedback, I find it's the same for staff too, depending on your role. And I might have a big general video that talks through something, but some of my teachers want to hear that it's for them. So I have one teacher at my school that when she's asking a question, she always feels bad. And I try to make her not feel bad about asking because she considers her question a simple one, where to find something on her computer that she doesn't know where to access it. And so I will make a really quick screencast and I'll just say, here I am. I'm here in my workout clothes because it's late at night and I'm sharing with you a video. And she wrote me back and said, I love that you told me that you were there in your workout clothes. That was the best part of my day to watch your little screencast. So anytime she writes me with her simple questions, I tell her what I'm wearing. It makes her so happy. Here I am in my onesie right before bed, here showing you what I'm about, right? I mean, nothing bad, Leslie. I saw your face. Okay. But I would just say that it's something where they feel like you are talking to them through the computer. And I find that is what people are needing. And if you somehow say their name or a couple people that have asked that question at the start, you give shout outs to people, they feel really special when they see that video. And that for me has been a really big takeaway, that it doesn't take me a long time to record short pieces and send them out to people or groups individually, or like, hey, English department, and then I'll send this off to them.
Okay, then thanks so much, Stephanie. And I'm going to share the link with the slide presentation. I'll have to email it to you because I can't get Adam's video into the slide deck, and I wasn't prepared to do that before we started. So I'll get that out to everyone. So thank you so much. I know Vicky had to go to a meeting, and Adam is in a meeting somewhere else in the world at the moment. Thank you so much, Stephanie Howell from Ohio in the afternoon, and in the evening there, Stephanie Rothstein at California. Darren from the UK, I think you can go to bed now. You can put your forest away and you can go to bed. Thank you so much, everyone, and I will get this recording to you through your email that you've signed up for. So thanks, everyone, and I'm going to stop the recording now.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having us.